Notebooks are really simple tools that can drastically improve your life. But there are so many different ways that you can use a notebook, so many different methodologies. So what's the single best way to use a notebook? Welcome to Park Notes. I'm Parker Settecase. I'm a philosopher, and I'm here to help you study and think and read more deeply. In this video, I'm going to help you determine what's the single best way to use a notebook. That is, what's the single best way for you to use a notebook? The answer is going to be person relative depending on your own needs. But I've been utilizing lots of different notebook methodologies for the past 11 years and over the course of 3 master's degrees. And through this YouTube channel, I've accidentally become a notebook czar. So I'm going to use some of the skills that I learned in my master's degree in philosophy to help us get clear on all the different notebook methodologies in order to help you pick which one's best for you. We're going to chart the logical space of all notebooks. But before we jump in, I want to get a feel for who's here. So if you use one or more notebooks already, or if you're a major notebook junkie, a notehead, then leave me a notebook emoji in the comments right now. And if that doesn't describe you and you're just kind of curious about the video, or you don't know how you ended up watching this, then leave me a thinking emoji in the comments. It's great to have you here. This video is sponsored by Brilliant, but more on that later. Let's jump right in. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to give you all the secrets. What's the very best way to keep a notebook? Well, that's going to depend on you. Notebooks are just raw material waiting to be formed. The truth is there's lots of different ways that you can go about keeping a notebook. There are tons of notebook methodologies, and each is designed to help you in various different ways. But at the end of the day, notebooks and their methodologies are just tools. So what task do you need a tool for? What are you working on? The job is going to determine the best tool to use. So what's missing from your life? Is it intellectual stimulation, space and time to think deeply, wisdom, inspiration, time management, life management, organizing your thoughts, recording and processing your experiences? Whatever you need in your life is going to determine which notebook methodology is best for you. Now, I can't solve that for you. It's going to depend on you and your needs. But what I can do is give you an analysis of all the different types of notebook methodologies so that when you figure out what you need, you can find the best notebook for you. So I'm going to give you 3 categories, and then from there, I'm going to chart the logical space of notebook methodologies. So the major categories are thoughts, experience, and self-mastery. Do I need a notebook to collect thoughts? Do I need a notebook to capture and process my experience? Do I need a notebook to help me master myself? Going through this process is an exercise in self-knowledge. I'm asking you to examine yourself, examine your life, and determine what do I need to live better today. So let me go through these 3 categories and give a characterization of each, and then I will cover which notebooks fall under these 3. So first up is thoughts. Thoughts break down into self-generated thoughts and gleaned thoughts. So you're going to have a notebook to either generate your own thoughts, to think through what you believe, why you believe it, or you're going to have it as a collection of gleaned thoughts, of thoughts that you've captured from other people, that you are collecting and putting into a notebook. So a notebook for self-generated thoughts are going to help you figure out what you believe, think deeply, actually know yourself, know thyself, and learn to reason better by forcing your ideas into words and then scrutinizing and examining them. A notebook for gleaned thoughts can be used to collect inspirational quotes, can be used for intellectual stimulation. You're capturing ideas that help you think. They're used for committing information to memory, and they're used to learn new concepts and ideas and study ones that you want to know better. And then there's also a mixed notebook where you collect your own thoughts, your self-generated thoughts, and where you glean thoughts and ideas from others. Now, people often ask me, Park, what if I just don't have new ideas? Where do I go about collecting and gathering new things to think about? Where do I go for intellectual stimulation? Well, here I want to mention Brilliant. Now, I love Brilliant because Brilliant is where you learn by doing. Brilliant is a learning platform designed to be uniquely effective with thousands of interactive lessons in math, data science, programming, and artificial intelligence. They've got this first principles approach, which helps you build understanding from the ground up. And each lesson is filled with hands-on problem solving that let you play with concepts as you learn. This is a method proven to be 6 times more effective than just watching lecture videos by themselves. Plus, all the content on Brilliant is crafted by an award-winning team of teachers, researchers, and professionals from MIT, Caltech, Duke, Microsoft, Google, and more. Brilliant helps you build critical thinking skills through problem solving, not just memorizing. So while you're actually building real knowledge on specific topics, you're also going to become a better thinker. And Brilliant helps you build real knowledge in just minutes a day with fun lessons that you can do whenever you have time. So instead of scrolling your life away, you can pull out Brilliant and level up a little bit more each day. Now, if you know me at all, you know I'm interested in the philosophy of artificial intelligence. And I've really been enjoying Brilliant's immersive AI workshop called How LLMs Work. This workshop helps you get hands-on with real language models. It'll help you understand the importance of training data, and it will help you learn how to tune an LLM to generate different kinds of output, whether it's poetry or a cover letter. So right now, my Park Notes audience gets to try everything Brilliant has to offer for free for 30 days. Just visit brilliant.org/parknotes or click on the link in the description or the pinned comment. And you'll also get 20% off an annual premium subscription. So big thanks to Brilliant for sponsoring this video. I said I was going to go through each one of these categories and then talk about the notebooks, but that's a bad idea. Let me just run through the different ways that you can use a notebook for thoughts, and then I'll move on to experience in those notebooks, and then self-mastery in those notebooks. So going back to the self-generated category, these are notebooks for your own ideas, your own thoughts. First up, we have journals. Now, a journal is just a collection of ideas. So this is a notebook where you sit down and you think through your ideas, not a diary. Diaries are for capturing experiences. They are time-bound. They are about emotions and how you're feeling and what that experience was like. Journals are for thoughts. Here's what I think and here's why I think it. Now you can keep a journal in a general way or in a topic specific way. So you can say, hey, this is my notebook for my thoughts. Or you can say, this is my notebook for this particular type of thought. Maybe it's my philosophy journal. Maybe it's a theology journal. That's like the categories I always think in. But you come up with your own categories if you want a topic-specific journal. I only want to think about these type of thoughts in this notebook. It's dedicated to that discipline. Now, another type of journal is a dianoia journal. This is a thinking through journal. So you take your notebook and you start a new entry. At the top, you write the idea that you want to think about, and then you actually do the thinking there on the page. You give yourself enough time to actually think through and make progress on an idea. What do I think about God? What do I think about free will? What do I think about the meaning of life? Is there one? Why or why not? Again, these are like philosophical concepts, but that's who I am. So this is how I think. You're thinking through your own worldview. You're thinking through your own ideas in order to get clear and to see what do you really believe and how far can you actually push your ideas. So it's a dianoia notebook that is thinking through your own ideas. You can also keep a journal of your ideas. So I have a good idea journal. When I come up with good ideas, I put them all in one spot. And then I act on them. And when they're done, I put a check and I'm done with that idea. Or I circle it. I make different marks to tell myself what's going on with that idea. Is it still an open loop or is it a closed loop? Do I need to act on this idea? Have I already acted on this idea? Do I need to do more? It's just a collection of my best ideas. Now, the next way to use a notebook for your own thoughts is keeping a book of philosophical soliloquies. I should mention I've done videos on all of these, so you can check the description and look up the soliloquies video, and you can find a more in-depth take on philosophical soliloquies, but I'll give a quick characterization here. A soliloquy is just a discussion with yourself. So I'm taking this idea from philosophers like St. Augustine or Boethius, who both used philosophical soliloquies in order to get clear on what they believe. Boethius wrote his soliloquy as a conversation between him and Lady Philosophy. So he personified philosophy itself as a woman who came to visit him while he's in prison and helped him think through his worldview. And this soliloquy helped him think through things like God's relation to time and evil. Super cool. St. Augustine in his soliloquies personifies his own reason as a person and is discussing the nature and existence of the soul and of God in order to gain self-knowledge. So in my book of soliloquies, I often ask myself a question about what I think, what I believe, why I am a certain way. I often write about villains. Why do I like villains? Why do I like this particular villain? Why do I find them so compelling? What's wrong with me? Sometimes I'm just asking myself and answering as myself. Sometimes I will personify my own reason, much in the same way as Boethius or Augustine. Another way to use a notebook to collect your own thoughts is to keep a book of book reviews. This is really simple. You just take a notebook, and when you're done reading a book, you write your own book review of it. What was the plot? Who are the main characters? What happened? And then personal stuff like, did you like it? Would you read it again? Should you read it again? What was hard to understand? Which characters fell flat and which characters did you resonate with? And maybe even include some of your favorite quotes and the page numbers where you can find them again. And the last one on the list is keeping a personal handbook. Now, I'm still working on one of these myself, but I used to use note cards on a ring with some of my favorite proverbs, and I would read this before a meeting, especially a meeting where I was prone to be emotionally charged. I would thumb through those beforehand. Hey, a fool gives full vent to his spirit, but a man of understanding quietly holds it back, stuff like that to help me be wise. So then I thought, hey, corporations come up with handbooks on how you should act in their company. Why don't I take some of the principles from my Proverbs note cards and turn them into a personal handbook? Here's how Parker should conduct himself. Here's how I want to be. Here's the type of man that I'm going to be. So I'm still working on that. I don't have anything to show you right now, but hopefully I'll do something on that later. Let me know in the comments, do you want to see something like that? If you tell me you want to see it, then that will help motivate me to do it. If you don't, I'm probably still going to do it, but leave me a comment. Okay, so those are notebooks to keep your own thoughts. Now, how about a notebook to keep thoughts from others, thoughts that you've gleaned through reading or listening to podcasts or attending lectures or, whatever. So first up is Commonplace Books. I love these. If you know anything about the channel, you know I'm obsessed with them. I think they're the best intellectual tool out there. A commonplace book is just a collection of quotes. So this motivates you to read widely and collect quotations from what you read, put them all into one spot for you to read back through at your own leisure. I've given a pretty intense analysis of Commonplace Books in other videos. You can find those in the description. Maybe I'll drop a link up here. But basically, there are 4 different types of Commonplace Books. There's a general and a specific. There's a treasury and a manuscript. And so you can mix and match those and get 4 types of Commonplace Books. A general Commonplace Book is just a collection of all your favorite quotes. Doesn't matter if it's fiction or history or philosophy. It's all going in one spot. Just general, what you read goes in here. Then there's topic-specific Commonplace Books. So I have a philosophy of mind commonplace book. It's only for quotations on the philosophy of mind. I have a definition of philosophy commonplace book because every philosopher has their own definition, and so I collect those and put them all into one notebook. I also have a general commonplace book where I put quotes that don't fit into any of my topic-specific commonplace books. And now there's also the treasury versus manuscript way to keep a commonplace book. A treasury is just collecting the quotes and putting them in your notebook. A manuscript commonplace book is where you collect the quotes and then you annotate them yourself. You give your own ideas. You give your own exegesis. What does this quote say? What does it mean? What do I think about it? Does it represent a good argument, a bad argument? And you're manuscripting out your own paper, treatise, blog post, Facebook post, whatever, incorporating that quotation into your notebook. So I actually think this fits in a mixed notebook because a manuscript commonplace book gleans ideas from others, but also includes your own self-generated ideas about the ideas of someone else. So I use my manuscript commonplace books mostly for writing philosophy papers. Next up, we have compendiums. Compendiums are just collected information. So if commonplace books are collecting quotes, a compendium is where you abstract out the information instead of the quote. These are usually meant to be comprehensive in scope and systematically presented. So I'm keeping a compendium on the simulation hypothesis. I want it to be comprehensive. I want to know everything about the simulation hypothesis, all the major thinkers who talk about it, all of their arguments for and against it, and I'm going to try to present them systematically in my notebook so I can find them easily. I often use a field guide as an example of a compendium. So a field guide of North American reptiles or birds is going to be all the birds, all the reptiles from North America. So it's comprehensive in scope and it's going to be systematically presented so you can find the information easy, but it's not going to include quotes from different authors or researchers. It's just going to include the information that's pertinent to turtles or birds. Next up is a notebook for lecture notes. There's some psychological research saying that keeping longhand notes in class is better than using a laptop. And some of the reasoning behind that is that a laptop helps you take all the notes verbatim from your professor and you're turning yourself into a typing machine instead of thinking about the concepts and ideas that your professor is expounding for you. However, when you take longhand notes, you can't take down what the professor is saying verbatim because you can't write fast enough. So you have to metabolize, compartmentalize, make the ideas that your professor is expounding, you have to make those your own and then write them in your own words. And it's said that this process actually helps you learn and recall information better. So I suggest if you're in school right now, use a notebook and write longhand. Similarly, you can also use a notebook for meeting notes. If you have a lot of meetings with people, take notes for those meetings. Have a notebook that's dedicated just to meeting up with people and taking notes, whether that's for work or friendships or counseling people. Hey, what did we talk about last time? Oh yeah, I have a note right here. Here's what you said, and here's the actionable stuff. Just like a notebook is good for your lecture notes, so a notebook is good for your meeting notes. Next up, we have a personal dictionary. If you want to increase your vocabulary, I think one of the best things you can do is keep your own personal dictionary. The idea is really simple. When you're reading, if you find a new word or a word that you really like, a word that you want to incorporate into your own life, you just box that word. You look up that word, maybe you write the definition in the book, but when you're done reading, you look back through all the box words and you add those into a notebook. You give a definition, you give the etymology of the word, where it came from, and you can also include where you found it. So maybe you give the sentence where you found the word and 1 or 2 for context. Now, not only are you gaining a new word or remembering a good word, you're also remembering more and more about the book you just read. Now, I also keep a notebook for when I take my daughter to the doctor. My wife has a good memory, but for whatever reason, when she's sitting with the doctor, talking about our daughter, she has a really hard hard time remembering what the doctor had said to us. So I have a whole notebook that's dedicated just to notes that I took while in our doctor's appointment. And these have come in handy and made me look like a superhero to my wife. All right, so the next major category is experience. This usually has a time component, whether it's daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, whatever. You're capturing your experience as data points for you to look back on and track trends or see how you're doing. Go back and reflect and process through your experiences, through your feelings. So these notebooks are going to be different than thoughts because they are capturing and processing important events. Here's what happened today. Here's what I experienced. Here's how I'm feeling about it, or I'm not sure how I'm feeling about it, but here's what happened. So what happened and how did it make you feel? Collect that data. These notebooks are going to be emotions heavy, but it also is going to include a record of actions. What did I do in response to this event or to this person's action? How did I respond? How was my response received? All that kind of stuff. That's going to go in a notebook dedicated to your experiences. So different methodologies include keeping a daily diary, or a monthly, etc., whatever time constraint you want. I'll just say daily diary, but you can fill in the blank for yourself. This is the most straightforward, the most simple. Get a notebook and start recording your experiences and how you felt about those experiences. Capture and process important emotions and events throughout your day. I also want to include a prayer diary. So if you're someone who prays, you can write those down and look back at them. If you've seen some of your prayers answered, then you can mark those in a special way and say answered and come back and write down how specifically they were answered. Or you can actually keep a separate notebook for answered prayer. So when you're feeling down, you're feeling like God doesn't care about you or whatever, go back through your answered prayer diary where you present evidence of God answering your prayers to yourself to lift your spirits and trust God even more. Next up, we have a nature log. I just did a video on this. A lot of people call these nature journals. I'm not sure. I think it's probably a nature diary, usually because they're time bound. Hey, on this date, I went out and I saw this animal and here's how I felt about it. It was super cool. But most of us are not like discovering new species and adding information to the public record. These are usually for us to capture our experience out in nature. And I'll also include bullet journals. Sometimes these are used to capture experiences. Sometimes they're used more like a diary. I think with the time component and the experience component, I think the bullet journals are actually bullet diaries. But I know people mix and match. They use these terms interchangeably. That's fine. If you're going with my terms, then it probably should be called a bullet diary, but whatever. Now, at the intersection of thoughts and experience is going to be a book of love. I recently did a video on this as well. This is like a cross between self-generated, gleaned, and a type of diary, prayer diary. Depends on how you keep it. But it's a book of love, an Eros journal, an Eros diary written for your future spouse. So you're going to be collecting ideas from others. Maybe you're collecting sonnets, maybe you're collecting poems or song lyrics. You're also going to be incorporating your own ideas about life and God and human nature and where you see yourself in 10 years, 20 years, 50 years, whatever. But you're also going to include your experience. Hey, today I was lonely and I can't wait until I meet you. Today I was daydreaming about what you're going to look like. Today was really good. Today was really bad. Today my dad said this. Today this huge life event happened and I want to write about it here to look back with you later because it was important in my life and I want to share that with you. So a book of love is a unique way to incorporate the categories that we've talked about already all into one notebook. And then lastly, we have self-mastery. In these notebook systems, you're going to manage and track goals. You're going to use daily metrics to do so. You're going to manage projects. You're going to use notebooks for time management, for productivity, to declutter your mind. And maybe you'll also keep like a wants list. What are some things that I want? I can write them down so I'm not anxiously ruminating about those throughout the day. And the actual notebook systems themselves are super easy. First up, we have a reading log. Now, a reading log is just a notebook that you use to track your reading goals. I like to come up with a daily page number goal for the year. I come up with this at the start of every year. I write it down in my reading log, and that helps me be accountable to my reading goals. Hey, I want to be a person who reads this many pages every day because I know that will help me get through X number of books or philosophy papers or whatever. I know that reading this many pages is good for me, and so I'm going to use reading log to track that and make sure I'm actually hitting my numbers. Again, I've done a video on like all of these, but my reading log video is one of my favorites. Check that out up here or in the description. Next, we have a time block log. This is just a notebook where you plan out your daily work schedule. You use time blocks of no less than half an hour and you block off when you're going to do what. In these blocks, I'm going to write emails. In these blocks, I'm doing deep work or deep reading. In these blocks, I'm doing project X, Y, or Z, but you're taking the time to write out your day. And when something messes up your schedule, you go back and you remake your time blocks. This is a hassle, but it will encourage you to be better with your time. Next up is using a bullet journal as your analog calendar. There are tons of videos about bullet journals, but I incorporate my time block log and bullet journal together together, and I did a video on that, so check that out up here. Another way to use a notebook for self-mastery is a notebook for to-do lists. Here you just sit down in the morning and you write down everything you have to do. You go through it throughout the day and cross off the tasks as you complete them. Now, this isn't my favorite thing to do. I incorporate this into my bullet journal and time block log because it doesn't help me to just see a bunch of tasks sitting on a page. I need to schedule out when I'm gonna try to accomplish those tasks, but I know other people really like just task lists. So you can consider keeping a whole notebook of them. This one may seem a little selfish here, but keeping a notebook of things you want. I want a kayak and a garage gym. I want a generator for when my electricity goes out. There's a lot of stuff that I need and a lot of things that I want, and it's exhausting to try to remember them all. So I write them in a notebook, and that way I can start saving money and being responsible instead of just splurging on things that I want instead of things that I need. And it relieves the stress of trying to ruminate on things that I need. Oh, I need that generator. Next time the electricity goes out, we're screwed. So, no, put that in a notebook. And then when you get paid, look at your things I want notebook and see if you can't allocate some funds towards specific things on the list. Next up is a workout log. Here you're planning out your workouts for the week, and you're writing out what exercises you did in any particular workout session. This is a way to keep myself honest. I can see when I didn't accomplish my workout goals, and I don't like that. But it also helps me remember what I did last week and how I need to incrementally improve this week. What weight did I use? How far did I run? What was my time? If I write it down and I make goals, I can improve. If not, then it's all just nebulous. I tried. I think I worked out last week. I don't really know what I did, but I think I did. So I love keeping a notebook as an analog workout log. And then lastly is my book of dastardly plans. I have a ton of open projects. I have like 7 or 8 YouTube channels. I think 3 of them are unlaunched, but I have a bunch of ideas for them and I'm working on videos to start launching those channels. I have a Substack and I have a subsection of my Substack called Sages, Mages, and Wisdom Machines, where I write science fiction and fantasy short stories with like philosophical and theological bents and leanings and ideas woven throughout. All this to say, I have a lot of stuff going on, so I use a notebook in order to keep track of all the loose ends. I look back in there and I remember, oh yeah, I haven't done anything on this project in a long time. I need to schedule work on that project next week. I call it dastardly plans because I think of Moriarty from Sherlock Holmes, A Game of Shadows. Sherlock says, with an empire so vast, even you, Moriarty, must keep a record of it somewhere. So I think about my YouTube empire and how I need to keep track of it somewhere. I also use a red leather-bound pocket notebook from Smytheson of Bond Street, which is the same thing that Moriarty uses in Game of Shadows. I love that movie. It's a fun little homage to Moriarty, but those things are expensive and it reminds me, hey, I better be using this if I'm going to buy it. I better be looking in here and following up on my goals, my projects, my plans. I have dreams and I want to accomplish those dreams, so go back and look at the notebook and make progress on your different projects. Now, this isn't like a strict actual flowchart. These arrows help me, but they all terminate on a catch-all. I think everyone should probably have a pocket catch-all. Catch-alls are just that. It's for catching all of this. Your thoughts, your experiences, self-mastery, management type stuff. Those are all going in your catch-all notebook, which you bring with you everywhere you go. And then when you have time, you can disperse them back out to the appropriate notebook. So importantly, these things have to be portable. I like pocket notebooks. They fit right in your pocket. I like field notes. I like the Moleskine Cahier. I like Leuchtturm 1917. There's links to all those in the description, but pick what you like and go with that. Put it in your pocket, put it in your purse, bring it with you everywhere you go, and write down your important ideas. Write down your thoughts, write down to-do lists, write down ideas for notebooks, write down thoughts that you heard while listening to a YouTube video, and then review before bed, review when you have a moment, use your time block log, schedule in time for review, maybe put it in your analog calendar, make a time block. Here's time to review my catch-all, and then to disperse the information out to the appropriate notebook. Bring it with you everywhere you go. If you're going to use just one notebook, make it a catch-all. These are so helpful. But I think as you start filling these up, you're going to say, hey, I need a notebook for my thoughts. I need a commonplace book for quotes. I need a daily diary to capture and process important events and feelings. I need a calendar or a time block log. I definitely need a reading log. I think as you use a catch-all more and more, you'll find yourself using more and more notebooks. But if you're going to start anywhere, start here. All right, so that's it. Those are 3 main categories for determining which notebook is best for you and a bunch of styles that I use. I'm sure that's like way too much. Hopefully it's not overwhelming for you. I suggest that you don't try all of these, but just go with one that sticks out to you. And like I said, you can't go wrong with a pocket notebook catch-all. You can find my affiliate links in the description of this video if you're looking to get a new notebook or a nice leather cover. I've got some discounts for you. If you made it this far into the video, then now you are a notebook wizard. So leave me a wizard emoji in the comments so I know who the real ones are. are. And make sure you leave me a comment. What's your favorite way to use a notebook? I appreciate all the support. If you guys want to continue supporting this channel, then become a YouTube member. You can find the link in the description here, and I have some exclusive content for you. Or become a paid subscriber over at my Substack. You can find that link in the description as well. You guys are awesome. All right, that's going to have to do it for now. I'll catch you guys next time.